Hello, PowerShift. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. So, the AYCC folks have asked me to talk to you about extending this moment into careers and lifetimes of activism. How do you go from here into the future personally? They wanted me to start by telling a little bit about my story. So it began here in my living room, sort of, in Berkeley, California, more or less. I grew up here. I've worked all over the world in online organizing, which is just helping folks use the internet to come together and create change on issues that folks care about, progressive issues like the ones you're working on. I started with a group called MoveOn.org in the United States. I was the advocacy director, 3.5 million members at that point, worked on a whole range of issues, elections. I went on to help start something called a VAZ, which is like an international equivalent. It's 10 million members now all over the world. Helped get up a similar type group in Australia, which you guys are probably familiar with. Then helped to start another group in the UK of a similar model, and I'll talk to you more about that in a little bit. Had the tremendous honor of running campaigns for President Obama during the first year of his administration, particularly focused around healthcare reform, and I'll talk more about that. Worked for a bunch of NGOs in and around all of that, Oxfams and Greenpeaces and Amnesties, things like that. Worked on a few presidential campaigns, some local campaigns, bunch of stuff. But lots of folks have done far more impressive things. It's just to say I've spent the last 12 years basically extending the kind of spirit that you guys have right now into the work that has made up my life. And so the AYCC folks wanted me to talk to you about that. I would start by saying the challenge isn't how do you find the drive to keep going. I actually think that drive is the default. You're aware, you see how much the world needs you, you've been inspired by the stories you've heard from your peers in these last few days. You know what you and people like you can contribute, how you can lead, how you can follow, how you can make a difference. You're going to want to. The challenge is that there are obstacles that we face as we try to pursue that drive in our lives that knock us off course. So I think the secret to sustaining your activism is not worrying about will you find the motivation. You already have that. It's how do you navigate around those obstacles that might otherwise knock you off your course. So I'm going to talk about 3 obstacles that I think have that potential and some thoughts on avoiding them. Delaying, scheming, and forgetting. I think those are the 3 main pitfalls that might lie in your path towards continuing your activism. Delaying. So as young people, we are often told we should hold off. Don't act on that crazy idea yet. Don't leap into that thing that you want to do. Surely somebody more qualified out there will do it first. Or if it was that easy, it would have been done. Step back, wait for somebody who just somehow mystically has more credentials than you do to take the lead. Now, sometimes in some areas that's true, but by and large, that's fear talking. And if you push through it, it's amazing how much you can achieve, and it's amazing how much the people who do achieve great things are not mystically more qualified than you. They're just folks who took the initiative and the folks who went with them. My own story around this, it's just one small illustrative example. I was a student when I began what turned into my career at a small northeastern university called Brandeis, a Jewish school mostly in the northeast of the United States. We saw a bunch of websites, one in particular that caught our attention where you could click and the people who paid for the ads on that website would donate the money for the impression of the ad to microcredit programs around the world that gave small loans mostly to very poor women so they could start small businesses and help pull themselves out of poverty. Micro enterprises, they're called. And we wanted to support that. And we came up with this idea, which was let's get a competition going amongst college campuses around the country to see how many students on their campus they could get each day to go back to this website and generate another donation. So it became an education drive, an organizing drive, bringing people in the fold to understand microcredit, the global poverty issue overall, global inequity between the United States and other parts of the world. Ended up getting 40,000 students involved, raised a pile of cash, exposure more than we ever could have imagined. The really neat thing is the school that won the competition was called Southern Methodist University. It was in Alabama, a very evangelical Christian school. We were a small northeastern Jewish school. It showed all of us that the power of a good idea that you don't wait on, that you just move forward, execute, try it. It's crazy. No one's done it before. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but you just do it. The power of that kind of idea is that it can bridge divides that you otherwise never could have crossed, bring people together into common cause who otherwise wouldn't have ever encountered each other. So that was an inspiring lesson for me and those who did it with me around just beginning, not delaying. So when you have your idea, don't delay, do it. Number two, don't scheme. The other thing that we do that gets in our own way is we're often in institutions and environments that have a lot of ranking, a lot of power. Even if it's not hard power, it's like influence and title and this, that, and the other thing. We want to be the best activist. We want to be the best institution. So you scheme and you think you can control things, and it's a delusion and it knocks you off course. The best counterexample to that keeps me on track in my life, I care about health reform very much. My mother, when I was 7, lost her health insurance. It was a group plan. It got dissolved. She was left out on her own. That's a situation millions of Americans faced at that time and still do. 30 million Americans uninsured, no way to get the care they need. So I went through life believing in that cause, caring deeply, personally, passionately about that cause, doing everything I could to build progressive power in the United States. Um, Barack Obama runs for president. I worked on his campaign, but I wasn't in a very powerful position. I ran online operations for one of the battleground states, North Carolina. And there's no way that I could have imagined or schemed that going from there I would have gotten any higher in the totem pole. Everybody's clamoring to get in the administration, bleh. But because of the people I had met along the way that I had focused on doing the good work that I believed in rather than kind of scheming to get into position, by good grace, I was offered the opportunity to be campaigns director for Organizing for America, campaigns and fundraising director. And my job was to devise the program that would engage 20 million supporters across the country to do everything they could to help pass healthcare reform. We had millions of phone calls and doors knocked and conversations had and events, rallies, protests, visits to congressional offices, lobby days on the Hill, everything we could do to bring ordinary people into the process. And by a very slim margin, health reform passed. And it became illegal for insurance companies to deny anyone care. It was the most profound moment of my activist life. The lesson it brought home for me was that to get where you want to go, become who you want to be. I'll say that again. To get where you want to go, become who you want to be. The best way you can have the impact you most desire is just by manifesting your values every step along the way and forget about the schemes. So no scheming. That's number 2. Number 3, no forgetting. When you have a vision of what it is you're supposed to do, just do it. The moment will always come that tests your vision and that you'll want to forget it. You'll be tempted. For me, my vision for my most recent phase of work came in Australia. I was working with Get Up, walking down the beach near Bondi, and I had this revelation about, geez, Get Up is so successful here, so useful here to progressives in Australia. It's a great tool. It could be something similar could work in other countries, and I could make a contribution to that. A few months later, I was in London at a conference just for a weekend. I had a return ticket. The next day, some folks started talking to me about it, and the voice came into my head. It was like, remember that vision on the beach? And I was like, no, not now. I got a ticket. I've got stuff to do. And it was like, no, remember. And I was like, okay, all right. I canceled my ticket. I moved into a little ratty apartment I found on the internet in East London, and I ate ramen for a month and brought people together and had conversations. And about a year later, 38 Degrees launched, and now 2 years after that, it's the largest activist group online in the history of the UK. They've made huge contributions to protecting the national forests from being privatized and sold off, from defending the National Health Service from being privatized and sold off. They've made Britain a more progressive place. The almost million members of 38 Degrees working together, and I made a contribution towards that. And that makes me really proud, and it's because I didn't let myself forget. So don't delay, don't scheme, don't forget. Your inner instincts, your inner power, your inner drive to do good is truly all you need to sustain you if you don't let it be derailed. So hang on to that inspiration that you have right now, and trust me, it will take you as far as you could possibly want to go and farther than you can imagine. Thank you so much for your time. Good luck saving the planet. We're all counting on you. Have a wonderful day.